Hi everyone, welcome to our second lesson on data and averages. So last lesson we looked at calculating mean, median and mode from a list of data and also from a frequency table. Today we're going to spend some time looking at a grouped frequency table. So I just wanted to talk about what the difference is. First of all, I've got a few examples here of what a grouped frequency table looks like. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different things to show you, and you've seen a grouped frequency table before, right? So these are the things that have these kind of groups down the left hand side. So what that's saying is that there are 14 bits of data in this group. Now I don't know exactly what those 14 bits of data are, but I know that they are all between 150 and 160, and you can see they're using these special symbols in some cases, but you'll notice that this example down here doesn't use those symbols, just goes from 19 to 29, from 29 to 34, and then finally down here you've got another example of that, 41 to 45, 46 to 50. Now the difference is that these grouped frequency tables are for continuous data and the bottom two are for discrete data, like someone's age. So what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on what we would do in this type of scenario, and we are just trying to first of all remind ourselves what grouped frequency is all about, and secondly we are trying to remind ourselves what it might mean if we're asked for the modal group. So what's the modal group then? Well, the thing is, when you are given a grouped frequency table like this, they can't really realistically ask you for the mode because we don't know the actual data, we don't know the actual numbers, but what we do know is which group has the most in it, and that's what the modal group is. So I'm just going to look down and we're going to say that the modal group of this first case is the one with the highest number in it, which is 160, and you can just copy the symbols out as they are. 160, 117. I just wanted to remind you about these symbols. I've chosen two different examples on purpose. This symbol means that this group is going to have everything between 160 and 170 in it, and 170 would go into this group, but 160 wouldn't because of this doesn't have the equal sign underneath, and this does. The next example, the modal group, again, it's the one with the highest frequency, is, let's look down here, it's the last one. And you'll also notice that on this one, the sign's the other way around. So we've got the equal sign on here and not on here, which means that 4 would go in this group and 5 would not go in this group. So there we go. We can easily work out the modal group from a grouped frequency table. The other thing you need to be able to do is you need to be able to find the mean, which is what we're going to talk about in a minute. So you might want to pause the video and do any exercise that your teacher has set you on this stuff here. Alright, so this is much more difficult and is totally new for most of you. So this is a grouped frequency table again, but this time we are trying to find out the mean. And I want to talk through it before we actually do it. So first of all, why does it say an estimate of the mean up here? And why does it say an estimate for the mean here? Well, the reason that it's an estimate is because you don't actually know what the data is. You've lost some of the information. You know that there are 3 bits of data between 0 and 10, but you don't know exactly where that data lies. They could all be 8s, they could all be 2s. So we have to obviously estimate, we have to guess what those bits of data are, and we're going to do that. That's exactly what we're going to do. We are going to work out or estimate what the data is. So in order to do this properly, we're going to need to add a couple of extra columns onto the table in a similar way to what we did when we did the last question. So we're going to add 2 columns onto the table rather than just 1. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll explain what those columns are for. So the first column we're going to add is the midpoint. That's the midpoint of the group. So that's halfway between 0 and 10, which is obviously 5. Okay, so let's do the midpoints all the way down. 15, halfway between 10 and 20. 25, half between 20 and 30, 35 and 45. Now, from this moment onwards, this question is actually exactly the same as a normal frequency table, as in a not grouped one. And the reason for that is that what we're doing is we're just assuming that we have got 3 5s and 8 15s and 11 25s. So what we've done is we've got rid of the groups and we've converted the groups into individual data. In effect, we are just assuming that all 3 of those bits of data in this group are actually 15s. So the second column that we've added on is the same one that we would do if we were a normal frequency table, which is the frequency times by the data. So that's 3 times 5. So that's 3 times 5 is 15, 8 times 15 is 120. I've got a calculator here. Okay, so you now need to remember what we did at the end of a normal frequency table to find the mean. We added up the frequency, and we also added up this column here where we've done multiplying. I don't actually need to add that up because it says in the question that there are 40 friends, but I definitely do need to add that up. Okay, so this is like me having added up all the data, and this is like how many bits of data I've got. So to do the mean, we're doing what we would always do, add up all the data and divide by how many bits of data there are. So I've got 28.25, which is the mean. We're just going to make sure that that roughly makes sense by looking at the table. So yeah, I mean, we've got most of the data here in this group here, so 28ish seems reasonable to me. So that is how to find the estimate of the mean from a grouped frequency table rather than from just a normal frequency table. And I'm sure your teacher has set you some work on that. So now the video is over, you can go and practice that in your own time. Each time you do it, you're going to add 2 extra columns, the midpoint column and then the midpoint times the frequency. Remember, you don't need to add up this midpoint column, you add up the frequency and the one we've done the multiplying, and then you do total divided by how many bits of data there are.